All right, hit it.
Hit it.
Well, g'day. This is the very first episode of the Concrete Connection podcast. Now, the Concrete Connection is a project I'm embarking on, which is to create and perform on every single street of the Adelaide CBD, 577 to be exact. And we're doing that to knock down the walls of stigma surrounding mental health and help raise awareness and funds for the charities that support people struggling with mental health. And today, on the very first episode, it is my pleasure to introduce Alan Haberfield, who's the leader of the Mount Barker Ukulele Group and the Malang Ukulele Group. Now, welcome, Alan.
Thanks, Ben. Lovely to be here.
Well, let's just, I'm just going through the paces. This is the first ever podcast I've done and hosted. So today we're talking about mental health. We're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about ukuleles. We are down on street number 25 now of the Concrete Connection. We're on Nielsen Lane, and here we are. So, Alan,
we've only got 552 more to do.
It's something like that, yeah. So, when I say the words mental health, what's the first thing that springs to mind for you?
I think mental health's about looking after yourself and not being too concerned about what anybody else thinks. This is one of the things that I've become familiar with in the last 50 years that I've dealt with mental health, is that most people are not thinking, and they're not giving you much consideration at all. We're running around with our busy lives. So I see mental health about looking after yourself and those around you and just staying balanced, I think.
Yeah, well, I completely agree with that. Not worrying about what people think is probably one of the biggest hurdles that people need to, overcome. I think the fear of other people's judgment can really, hold people back. And as you said, mental health is about looking after yourself. I think mental health is something to be celebrated. That's one of the reasons why I'm sort of out here as well. Is I think it needs a bit of a rebranding. For me, sometimes talking about mental health, you share your mental health struggles with someone, it's all well and good to tell people, to talk about it. But in my experience, when I've told people about my struggles, they don't know how to respond. And then sometimes there's a shame associated with it as well, that then you retract from the conversation too and you isolate yourself. So, yeah, for me, it's a rebranding because it is about looking after yourself. And I think mental health is something to be celebrated. Do you think, is that sort of the message you were thinking about?
Yeah, it is. For me, mental health's one of those things. It's just part of being whole. It's part of being a human being. It's just part of life, and it's as big a part of your health as any other part of your health. I mean, you can get you could catch a cold, you could get a twisted bowel, you could get your knickers in a knot, and and things can go wrong with your thinking and just your general attitude towards life. And sometimes being aware of it, I think, is the biggest key. And just to be aware that something's not quite right. It's all right to say so and talk. Sometimes you don't want to talk. Sometimes talking's too hard. But just know that you're not alone and that it's just punch through.
Now, we said before you are the leader of 2 ukulele groups in South Australia, and you've got quite large communities that you engage with. Have you seen benefits of these ukulele groups and music? Have you seen benefits with that, with the communities you engage with in their mental health?
Absolutely have. And it's a bit like, that it's, what is that? It's more divine to give than receive. I think I heard something like that. And so what I do is as much about my own mental health as anybody else's. And I certainly didn't get involved in ukuleles to be involved in other people's mental health. But with the crowds that we have in our ukulele groups, and I say I run the ukulele groups, I do the music. I'm kind of the musical director, and we have a lady, Lyndall, the lovely Lyndall, she's pretty much the manager and the facilitator of both of those groups. And between us, well, we're an older crowd. It's the retired crowd for the most part that come along. There's the odd few that are still working, but most of us are retired. And in a lot of cases, that leaves up some free time. People don't know what to do with themselves, and there's only so much television you can watch. There's only so many books you can read. There's only so many times you can weed the roses. What we find is that when we get together and play our music, it doesn't much matter what we play, but it's the playing together. It really is the playing together. And I say that we get into these groups, into these ukulele groups, we think for the music, for the singing, for the ukuleles, but you stay there for the love. You stay there for the people. And it's become quite a family. And in both the cases with the groups that I'm with, we've got a really close-knit group in two places, and sometimes we can put them together, and just to be able to get together and to have a sing at whatever standard we do that is just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, well, you said something there, whatever you do, weed the roses, but, I've heard a few times, your mental health is a little bit like a garden, it does need taking care of. You go out and do the gardening once, and 2 weeks later the weeds are back up again. So it is something that does take continual working on yourself. So I love that analogy that your mental health is a bit like a garden. It needs to be tended to and needs to be taken care of.
It absolutely does, and you have to be deliberate about it, and you have to be sincere and deliberate about it. And one of the reasons that I've got not too bad at playing a ukulele is that it's my go-to thing every day. As soon as I feel a bit flat or a bit down, I just sing myself a song. And I'm very lucky that I can sing myself a song, or even I'm one of the lucky ones that can tell myself a joke. Sometimes I've heard them before, and I still get a cackle out of it. And it's just, I think, your well-being, I don't know about happiness, but contentedness, it's a decision that we make every day. It's not just a happenstance or a circumstance. It's actually a decision that you make. And if you want to be miserable and down, well, that's not hard to do. But I got sick of that. It made me miserable and I felt down.
It's called playing music for a reason. It's, it's playing, it's having fun. It's like playing a game. I'm sure you've dealt with it as well, having students and people among the group and people coming to you for, I guess, tips and how to practice their ukulele. People get down, what should I practice? What should I do? But it's about playing. It doesn't matter what you're practicing or what you're doing. If your hand's on the instrument and you're doing something, generally, that does make me in a better mood and does make me content. As you said, maybe not happy, but it's a good solution for that moment. So we are down, as I said, on Street 25 now. Did I say? Was that?
You did say 25.
Yeah,
I worked it out in my head. I said 552 left.
Yeah, that's right. So some streets that we've been on today, Alan's coming on a ride along, and we're in the southwest quarter at the moment. So some streets aren't that accommodating to perform on music. We're in heavily residential section of the city right now, so we've just pulled up in a nice little car park. So we're looking at different creative ways to still make content and still raise awareness about mental health. So we're going to go out and maybe play a little bit of music on the last couple of streets. We're going to cross off for today. But other than music, have you got any other tips for anyone that might be struggling with mental health at the moment?
I think the biggest thing that I'd say, if you're struggling with mental health, it's imperative that you tell somebody. All right, it's not a battle that you can or you should fight on your own. Sometimes when you tell other people, and they can want to be involved when you don't really want them to be involved. You just want them to know that you're doing that you're involved, and so that they can sort of come along. I think one of the most important people to tell, of course, is your doctor. Get to your doctor and tell them. You don't always have to take antidepressants or medications. That's not always the answer. Sometimes the answer is just to have somebody who's in the know tell you that you're okay, that it's all right. Yeah, you might feel a bit flat, but you can get through it, and there's things that you can do. Talk to somebody, tell somebody. And really that's what we're doing here, isn't it? This is about awareness. That's
awareness, and then we're talking, trying to talk and try to, I think there is everyone says to talk about it, but it can be harder than it seems. So, getting to a doctor or, I know therapists and things like that, they're paid, but, when you got something to get off your chest, it's best to get it off any way possible, because eventually what is there on that chest of yours is going to slowly suffocate you. So getting it out. One tip, actually, I had a mate tell me years and years ago, I think I was only like 18, something like that, and I think I'd just broken up with a girlfriend, and he said, now, one thing that I've learned is to write a letter. And you can put it straight in the bin afterwards. Just taking it out from off your chest, or the weight on your shoulders, or what's clouding your mind, put it onto a piece of paper, because taking it out and putting it down is going to take it away from being inside you. So I get asked a lot, why do I write such sad music? Why? And I get asked if I'm okay quite a lot, and I am doing pretty well, because I have my own type of therapy, and that is writing it down, getting it out of the system and onto the page. I call it.
Do you think that hat's helping though?
The hat helps, it hides the hair that I'm trying to grow out at the moment as well. I'm, self-conscious about that. But, getting it out of the system, I call it like the paper bank, making a deposit at the paper bank, because even though it's at arm's reach, it's not inside you anymore. So that's a tip that I can share. But thanks so much for joining me today, Al. And should we go play a few tunes somewhere?
Why don't we go and play some tunes somewhere?
That sounds good.
Let's
Pleasure,
do
mate.
that.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you.
Wow, that was
You
great.
got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got troubles, then I got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We'll stick together and we'll see it through. 'Cause you've got a friend in me, yeah. You got a friend in me, yeah. You got a friend in me.